Welcome to another episode of Digital Transformation with SaaSy. I'm Andrea. Everyone should know me by now because I think the Octo hat is fairly famous now, at least on LinkedIn. Bart, who are you and what do you do?
So, hi everyone. I'm Bart and I run Digital Trading. It's a company that builds custom software. So no two projects are the same, and we like a challenge. So to give you an example, one thing that was so extreme that even Google didn't know what we were trying to do. We were asked by a customer who had an app that runs on a smartphone, like every one of us now has, to rebuild it on a Nokia 3310 because they were trying to move their solution to a third world country, and they still didn't use smartphones.
Right.
So yeah, asking Google about technology like that was tricky because it was pre-Google. So we had to we do an incredible amount of R&D, and we have a company that does our R&D claims. And the guy that does our R&D claims was a developer in the 80s. And he actually then told us exactly what we were looking for, and he was our consultant on that project. So yeah, we're up to any challenge that you might have. I like military tactics, and that's because there is black and white. Yeah, you do whatever it takes with a team of people that you can absolutely trust with your life to get stuff done. And I wish everyone was like that. And I absolutely love it. Also, gaming. Gaming is definitely something that I enjoy doing. We have Friday gaming nights with our developers in the business, and it helps us to learn how we cooperate with each other outside of work. So yeah.
Nice. And we spent at least 20 minutes, I'm sure, and I don't think that's an exaggeration, talking about games yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what ones are you particularly applying your military tactics to at the moment?
So we play a lot of V-Rising. I don't know if a lot of you know that. It's a combination of tactics on gathering things and then building up your castle. Mm-hmm. So the game is about vampires who've been overthrown and they're trying to get back into power. And the co-op on the game is absolutely amazing. The ability to build your castle out the way you want to structure it is exceptional.
Yeah.
They made a really good game. The playability is stunning.
Quickly, and the preview of the screen looks very familiar from Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. So similar view, very similar view. Yeah. But yeah, since Witcher 3, it's going to be really difficult to beat that game. But I think that's been the best game I've ever played.
Every now and again I Google, and I know that it's not gonna give me the answer I want. Making another Witcher game anytime soon, please.
Apparently they're actually working on Witcher 4. Yeah. So I can't wait.
It's the same studio, isn't it, that did Cyberpunk, and then they got, I absolutely loved it. I must admit. I didn't have a PlayStation, so I didn't have any of the issues that most people were actually experiencing and stuff. And because it got me through like the first COVID Christmas, I really loved the game. I could see why everyone got frustrated with it. But yeah, I think they got a lot of negative backlash off the back of that they've now got to recover from. Yeah, just work on The Witcher for us, please.
Yeah. It worked. Stick with it. But yeah. I tried Cyberpunk, but yeah, the amount of bugs just put me off, and I never went back. Yeah, I might do one day.
Yeah, I told you yesterday. If I do enjoy something, even if it takes me a little while to get used to it or to get into it, like I did with Witcher, I'm then hooked. And that Christmas, I really was hooked. And I think I'd ended up getting the game on early access or early release, and I'd found an eBay voucher and got a 20% discount, even though it was pre-ordered and all this sort of stuff. So I went old school with the disc, but I loved it. Anyway, next one. What's your favorite app or tool, please, and why?
So this is something we've started probably about a year and a half ago, but ClickUp. So we were looking for a really good project management tool that helped us manage multiple projects, multiple customers, for customers to have the right communication levels, you can set it up in different ways for different customers, because some people actually want to know and want to be engaged. Some just throw stuff at you and they let you get on with it, and then you just need to come back to them when it's sorted. Yeah. So it allows you to build both of those types of interactions with the customers. But yeah, ClickUp, it's running the operations of the business currently. We went through Rike, we went through Asana, and each of those had some shortfalls. Now, ClickUp still, in terms of reporting, still has a bit to go, especially reporting hours and things like that. It's actually quite difficult if you want to split things in the right ways. But besides that, it's a really, really good tool. And yeah, I don't see, it would be really difficult to run the business without it.
Do your customers agree? Do they like using it if they're using it?
Yeah, so we've beginning of this month, we've taken on 7 new customers, support customers. So they had legacy systems that needed support. We took them on, and it's sometimes those things happen because they work with a single developer, and that single developer just gets either too big for them, or they decide that they want to move to New Zealand, or that they don't want to do development anymore and they want to be a gardener. Whatever the reason. Those companies need the software to be supported. So we had 7 new customers beginning of this month, and because we've introduced a single way of contact, single way of doing it with good feedback, they absolutely love it. Yeah, they and we can communicate through it. We can now then create documentation from the comments that have been made. Yeah. Which basically, because sometimes you work on a project for, let's say, 6 years, and then someone asks you, well, why did we do that? Mm-hmm. Well, there had to be a reason, but 6 years ago, different people, different teams, no one knows why. Yeah, so there was a reason, because otherwise we wouldn't have done it. And in this way, you can keep track of what was the thinking behind what you were doing. Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Nice.
Especially on a long-term project.
Yeah. It's nice when you get a nice internal and customer facing one, though, because I'm a reluctant, like you feel about Zoom, I feel about Jira. Like, it's great for internal software teams, but it's not great for external customers. It's overkill, to be honest, even for a lot of the projects I worked on as well. But something like ClickUp or even the Asana, and the ones that are a little bit more focused on the user interface and the user experience a little bit more, just easier to understand and stuff. It's nice when a customer likes it as well as a developer. It's quite rare.
Yeah, exactly. You do have to still adjust it a little bit for both audiences. So we have like a developer view and a customer view, but it's pretty versatile.
Yeah. We've explained in the intro slide what digital transformation means for SaaSy and what sort of work we do. I've actually updated it very recently to talking more about internal transformation. But what does digital transformation or internal transformation mean for you, plural?
So it's mainly about efficiencies and automation. So going through and analyzing processes of the business as is currently. And then suggesting better ways of working through using digital tools. But that doesn't mean you go in, rip everything out, and just say, we're going to start over because all that doesn't work. So it's about seeing how people work, and if the tools that they're using are effective and it's saving the time, they like it, it's not causing issues to anyone else, let's leave it. But if we leave it, we then have to make sure that everything else talks to each other. Mm-hmm. So if you want to use if you're very happy with your, let's say, online sales, yeah, that are coming through, and the portal, whatever CMS you've chosen, whatever system it's built on, you're very happy with how that works. We don't need to rebuild it. What we need to do is we need to connect it to your payment gateway. We need to then connect it to your CRM, and then we need to connect it to your accounting package.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all those systems know what the hell's going on right at the beginning of the process. Because if you then start copying, pasting, exporting to Excel, and then moving it over, something always goes wrong. Yeah. And then some people don't see the right things that they're supposed to see. And how can you make a decision? Yeah, you need to make, as a business owner, you need to make an informed decision, and without the right reporting, you just can't.
Yeah. All sounds very familiar.
And every business is different. Every business is different, so you have to take into account that one might need middleware, and the other might actually need a new system built from ground up. But it all depends on the customer and the requirements.
But something you said at the very beginning is one of the reasons that we get on so well, because we share a pretty core work value that you and I apply to everything that we do without even thinking about it. And it resonated and stood out as soon as you started talking there. And it's all about, what does the customer actually need? It's not even about what the customer says that they need, it's what they actually need. So when I asked you, what does that mean for your company and the work that you do, you didn't start talking about software. You started talking about, well, actually, it's a bit of analysis, and it's a little bit of like, what do you do at the moment? What are the pain points? So it's way before you even touch, some code or anything that geeky. There's so much before all of that. And
people don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got, we have a saying that we do what you need, not what you want. Now, I've had some pushback on that, but I want it. Yes. Well, you do. You do want it. I do understand that you want it, but do you really need it? And in a professional opinion, you might need this, although you want that. Or it's your decision. You're the client, but
you don't need it at all. And actually, from a business point of view, you're talking yourself out of a sale. So actually, it seems counterintuitive for you or I or someone else to advise that. That's the harder route to take, because you're giving genuine, real, as unbiased as possible advice to someone that, no, that's not what you need at all. And this is why. That's a harder conversation and more effort to have than just saying, you know what, you've said X, we're going to provide you with X and we're going to charge you for it fairly. That's job done. But that's not how I like to work and how you like to work.
Yeah, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. And if we're in what we do, we're experts. Yeah, so we know what we're doing. Listen to the advice. Yeah, if you decide to take that, it's like going to a doctor. The doctor will tell you your leg's broken, you need to have a cast. But if you decide that you're running a marathon over the weekend, you don't want a cast, that is your option.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like a cat. I get distracted by the weather, and it's just gone from blue skies to like it's just lashing of rain within seconds, and I can hear it. And of course, you can see a little bit. It's the window just kind of, I'm right next to it, and it just light, so it doesn't come up on the video very well. But yeah, very British weather today.
Yeah, it was rainy when I got up. It went through a really sunny patch, and then it looks like it's going to rain again. That's probably because it's getting close to 5 o'clock on Friday.
Absolutely, exactly. Although I did look at the forecast earlier, it was beautiful when I walked the dog this morning in the forest. I even took a really nice scenic looking picture without the dog in it though, and the runner that went past us. But it's supposed to be dry after this shower. When I was like, oh, a little bit of drizzle, not this. Anyway, away from the weather and back to an example either of a relevant project that's gone well or hasn't gone well, whichever is more relevant for you to chat us through.
We had a project that went well, didn't go well, and then went exceptionally well. So we've been approached probably about 6 years ago by a company who wanted to build a sustainable water system in Africa. Yeah, cool. So they came to us and said, listen, this needs to work offline. This is the hardware that we have, but all the software needs to be written for it. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to manage it. It needs to be simple enough for the people in the villages to be able to see what's wrong with it, do transactions. It needs to have a mobile app to make transactions. It needs to work on either Bluetooth or NFC for the villagers to have little tags that they can go to the tap with and so on. So we've spent, and we've never worked in Africa before, we've spent a little bit over 12 months building a solution that worked from beginning to end. Then we sent the team out to Africa to install it. So because we only have experience in the UK market, or had back then, offline was when you go into a basement and you come out after a long 3-hour meeting. Turns out offline for them is close to 60 days. Yeah, that's offline. So when you put a tap in the middle of a village without any internet connectivity, you have to be very careful about every single bit that you send. Yeah, because the connectivity might come in for a little bit and then go out and then not be there for a month, 2 months. So after installing a couple taps, we came back and we said, this needs to change. And this needs to change significantly based on the market. So at the beginning, I spoke about the Nokia 3310. That was that situation, yeah, where you need to build an app for people to be able to take transactions on and fill in the details and things like that. No one, except the shopkeeper, has a mobile phone. So there's no way that they can sign up to the system, yeah, on a smartphone if they don't have one.
Yeah.
So we went back to the customer and said, listen, yeah, based on the understanding that we've been given, the system works, but not in the environment that it needs to work in. So we need to go back, yeah, and rethink how the process works, rethink the tech that we've used. So we've sorted the situation out pretty quickly, but it was kind of an eye-opener in terms of the perception. And when you need to look at every single project from the end user's point of view. So not necessarily even your client. So if your client wants to build something for, I don't know, for a care home, you have to go to the care home, look at how they're going to be using it, and not rely necessarily on what the customer tells you and thinks what they're going to be doing with it. Yeah, so that was an interesting learning that we've taken away, and everyone in the business remembers that you have to think about it from the person that will be using it point of view, not anyone else, because that's why you're doing it.
Yeah. Hayley and I have had so many conversations about this. Hayley is a freelance UX UI designer who works with SaaSy, and she's also a good friend. And honestly, the amount of conversations, in fact, we recorded a whole interview all about, from the user's point of view. And not to be awkward, but now I won't work on any project that doesn't have a user experience designer or that data from the beginning, because it just gets you into too much trouble further down the line. It's easy to think of your customers, or how they're going to use it, but until you have even just one conversation that kind of either backs that up or doesn't, then you don't know. It's an assumption.
Yeah, and it's even bits of the project. So, for example, you have a website, you have a marketing page that people search things on. Most of your customers will have absolutely no idea what your products are called. So if you put exactly your product name, yeah, and it's third down the list in the search results, that may still be right. Because if I'm looking for a blue office chair, yeah, I'm not going to put in the company that made it, the material that it's been made from, and anything else that as a business owner. Yeah, I'm going to be looking for a blue office chair. Yeah, and if a blue office chair gives me the right results, these are the right results. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be the whole project. It can be bits of the project. That's the way you have to think about things.
Yeah. And again, it really speaks to the whole, but it's gonna tie in so much with delivering something that the customer is actually happy with and does meet the brief.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it doesn't work, right?
No.
I've said this before. It can be a beautiful, gorgeous piece of software that does exactly what was asked for. If no one uses it, it's still a failed project. That's the truth.
Right. Correct. Yeah. If you build something and you don't have customers, you've done it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything in that you would have done differently if you were doing it again?
Yeah, we would have went there first.
Okay.
We would have went to the environment, we would have went to Africa and said, okay, so this is where we're going to put it. Yeah. Check the internet connection, spoke to the people and said and asked them about the stuff that they're using. Yeah. How they're seeing this solution working, instead of listening to the client who had really good experience. Yeah. So they had a lot of years and years of experience of working within Africa. Yeah, but not on these type of projects. They worked with companies, and companies are different, yeah, than end users. Because a company, if you don't have a smartphone, they'll buy you one because you need one to do. Where people don't work like that, yeah. So I need to get a smartphone to get water. What?
I just
That
want
doesn't
water.
work. That's a hard set.
Yeah. And how would you have done the stakeholder bit of that, of actually convincing the client, not necessarily that client, but if it was a brand new one that was coming on board, really that's a bit of an ask, right? To say you're going to have to spend this budget or this effort or this whatever getting that data, whether it's sending us out or someone else. How would you go about that?
That's quite easy. You just introduce them to the people that didn't do it before. Yeah, and that is it. It's like, just
I like that.
go talk to Rob. Yeah, he'll tell you why you need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because
like
it otherwise it would have saved them 3 months of work, of time. So it's not necessarily the money; it's the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a solution that you're going to go and install because it's done. Yeah, and then you have to tell everyone, you know what? You still have to wait 3 months because we need to fix it.
Yep. No, I like that though. Go speak to the one that it didn't go so well.
Yeah, that didn't do it. Yeah.
Any advice for anyone out there other than what you've already shared for I'll start that again because I can't think or speak today. Any advice for people out there about to embark on their own digital roller coaster? That was a mouthful, apparently.
I would say plan. Planning is underestimated in every single project. Yeah, we've been invited to assess projects where people just started developing, and there is a place for iterative development, but that's strictly R&D and strictly things that haven't been done before. You don't do R&D on building a piece of CRM. Yeah, that's been done 68 million times. You don't need to do R&D on it. You just need to plan it right. And people don't appreciate that at all. It's like we use when we try to convince people that this is the way to go first. Yeah, is because people expect you to send you a Word document, one-page Word document with a expression of wish, and then you read it, and then a couple of weeks later you come back with code, with done code, project working as it should. That's not how this works.
Oh, you shock me.
I know, exactly. So, well, you wouldn't approach building a house in the same way, because sometimes you have to spend the same amount of money on building good software as you do if you want to purchase a house. So why don't you approach it in the same way? You go to an architect and you say, okay, I want this many bedrooms. I want an island in the kitchen. Yeah, these are my wishes. Mm-hmm. They then go away, they create a plan, then you go back to that plan, you change it 3-4 times until it's right. Yeah. And then you can go to a builder and say, this is what I want and how much it's going to cost me. You can't just say, well, I want that, and show them a house from the outside. Well, the hell does that mean?
I'm going to steal that analogy. It's a really good one, though, because I can picture it.
Yeah, people understand physical things for digital because they don't see what it takes in the background to actually move that wall somewhere else and move that logic and change that logic. They think it's like it shouldn't take more than 15 to 20 minutes.
It's not just it's even beyond, but it's even before that though. Saying I want a 3-bedroom house. Okay. There's a whole lot of conversation around that though. What 3-bedroom and what? There's a lot else. Like you can have a 3-bedroom 7 reception house with
nice. Yeah, exactly. And who's it going to be for? You know, is it how many kids do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or are you planning?
Requirements, you know.
Exactly. They're and because it's physical, people understand those conversations and they understand why you're asking those questions. Where with digital, you start asking those questions, it's like, what do you mean? It looks like you don't know what you're doing.
But it's also
like,
even like the reason I really like the comparison, actually, I wish I'd thought of this like many years ago, but they have it's a much more relatable experience, right? Because even if you've never built a house or never bought a house, it's still something that you see every day on TV in some way, shape, or form. So one of the renovation shows, anything, like you have more information and as a baseline than anything to do with, you know, digital if you've never done anything like that before. But yeah, I like it. I like the comparison. It's nice. Last one that I really love asking, because I always write something down on these ones. I always learn something new. What's your favorite hack or pro tip that you wish you'd known 3 years ago?
So this is a little bit different. So I because I'm from I come from Poland, yeah, and we're quite direct as a nation. And sometimes you say something and you hurt someone's feelings where it wasn't meant in that way. So being more aware that people have feelings and that it's quite easy for some to be offended by what you say. So you have to sometimes beat it around the bush. Where I'm quite logical. I always wanted to be a developer. Yeah. And then it turned out I'm pretty good at talking to people and understanding what they want. So my job role changed, but I was writing code since I was probably about 12. And I really, really enjoyed it because it's logical. It's either it works or it doesn't. There's black and white. There's no it's everything's binary. So knowing that people aren't as binary as me, yeah, would save me a lot of conversations that I had to have afterwards and explaining my train of thought. And people who know me now know that I'm not a nasty person. I just speak my mind and I try to explain things in the simplest way possible. Yeah. Logical way. And sometimes that gets in the way of people's feelings and perceptions, which 3 years ago would have even more than that would have come in handy. Very handy.
So I'm Romanian, and I think the cultural kind of push and pull that we both have. I mean, I moved here when I was 8, and I think you're moved around more.
I was about 24. Yeah.
You said you moved to Canada first, right? So you've done more.
Yeah. When I was 10, we moved to Canada for a couple of years.
And I always say I'm too Romanian I'm too European, I suppose, for the UK, and I'm far too English for Romania now. But I'm
exactly the same.
Fluffier than you are, a little bit fluffier than you are when you speak, because I find that directness actually quite physically uncomfortable. But mentally, when someone's talking to me, I'm like, it's quite difficult working out what you're trying to say if you're not direct with me. And it's still a learning curve to understand what people mean versus what they say. If they're trying to be really diplomatic or polite, my brain can't handle it. I'm like, oh no. I had a boss when I was about 19, and she asked me for something and she didn't tell me, and she suggested something. And I didn't pick up on the fact that it was tried not to be a command. And she was horrified that I hadn't prioritized it like she very politely asked. I'm like, oh no, that was far too subtle for me. I wasn't trying to be rude or ignoring you. I just didn't get it.
And you have to learn different cultures, and different countries have different approaches to things like money, emotions, or tasks. Yeah.
And
so you have
well, like I'm too British now because I find talking about money quite uncomfortable as well.
Oh, I didn't get there yet, but different. When I talk to my cousins in Canada, they're like, "You're so British," and I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah.
But when I'm here, it's like you're too direct. You can't talk to people like that. I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take that into consideration.
Push and pull.
Yeah, it is, and different countries, different people, different mindsets. So yeah.
I like it. I like the mix. I really appreciate your time. It was really cool chatting to you. It always is.